The dress took 3 weeks, not 3 weeks of perfect, focused sewing, 3 weeks of evenings after work, after dishes, after my daughter had finished her homework and sat at the table with a notebook full of graduation plans. It was stitched slowly, sometimes by her hands, sometimes by mine, blue fabric we found on sale. Nothing fancy, but every seam carried the kind of patience that grows when people know they have to build their own celebrations. My daughter kept smoothing the fabric like it might disappear if she stopped touching it. The night before graduation, we laid it across the dining table to press the last wrinkles out. She was talking about tomorrow, the way people talk when they're afraid to believe something good has finally arrived. I just wanted to go right, she said quietly. I told her it would. That was when my mother-in-law walked in. She had the habit of entering a room like she already disagreed with whatever was happening inside it. Her eyes landed on the dress first. She didn't ask about it. She stared at it the way someone studies evidence. "What is that?" My daughter answered before I could. "It's my graduation dress. We made it." There was a pause long enough for the iron to start cooling in my hand. My mother-in-law laughed once under her breath. She made it, she repeated, like the sentence itself was ridiculous. Then the familiar shift came, the one where her voice hardened in that quiet way she always used when she wanted something to hurt without sounding loud. Some people shouldn't pretend they've earned things. My daughter went still. I had heard versions of that sentence before. Over the years, it had attached itself to school awards, sports attempts, job interviews. My daughter had learned to smile through it, but the effort always showed afterward. Tonight, though, the dress was right there in front of her. My mother-in-law reached across the table before either of us understood what she intended to do. Her hand grabbed the fabric at the shoulder seam. "She doesn't deserve a special day," she snapped. The ripping sound was louder than I expected. Cloth tearing has a strange finality to it. One sharp pull turned weeks of careful work into two uneven halves. Another tear split the skirt. My daughter made a sound I had never heard from her before. Not crying, not speaking. Something smaller. For a second, no one moved. Then my mother-in-law stepped back from the table, breathing hard, like she had just corrected a mistake in the world. I didn't argue with her. I didn't shout. I knelt down and started picking up the scraps. The fabric felt different now, lighter somehow, like it had lost the weight of expectation. Behind me, I heard my daughter leave the room. My mother-in-law waited for something, a reaction probably. When it didn't come, she shook her head and walked out the door. The house went quiet. I gathered every piece of blue fabric I could find and stacked them carefully in my hands. She had no idea. That thought arrived slowly while I was kneeling on the kitchen floor. She thought the dress was the thing that mattered. She thought tomorrow could be undone with a single moment of anger. But the dress had never been the real preparation. I knocked on my daughter's bedroom door. She was sitting on the edge of her bed, staring at the floor. When she looked up, her face had that expression people get when embarrassment and grief mix together. "It's ruined," she said. I held up the pieces. "Not ruined," I said, "just different." She didn't believe me yet. We spent the rest of the night at the table again. The sewing wasn't elegant this time. The seams weren't hidden the way they had been before, but slowly the pieces came back together. By midnight it looked imperfect, but it looked like a dress again. We didn't talk about my mother-in-law anymore. Instead, we talked about the ceremony schedule, about parking, about the fact that my daughter hated walking across stages in front of crowds. At one point, she ran her fingers over the new seams. "They're obvious," she said. "Maybe that's okay." Morning arrived faster than either of us expected. The school gymnasium filled with the low noise of folding chairs and families finding seats. Graduation ceremonies all feel a little the same. Too many people, too many cameras, too many speeches. My mother-in-law arrived halfway through the seating. She sat 3 rows behind us. I didn't turn around. The ceremony started slowly. Names, applause, the usual rhythm. Then the principal stepped back to the microphone near the end. "There is one additional recognition this morning," he said. My daughter stiffened beside me. She knew. The principal continued. "This year, one student completed the highest number of community tutoring hours in our district, quietly, consistently, and often without recognition. My daughter had started volunteering months earlier, helping younger students who struggled with reading after school. She never talked about it much, but the school had. Would you please come forward?" Her name echoed through the gym. The room clapped the way rooms do when people realize something genuine is happening. My daughter stood slowly. When she walked across the stage, the repaired dress moved with her. The seams were visible if you looked closely, small lines crossing the fabric where the tears had been. The principal shook her hand and handed her the certificate. From the corner of my eye, I finally glanced behind me. My mother-in-law was watching the stage. Not angry, just very quiet. My daughter stepped back down and returned to her seat. She didn't say anything, but her shoulders were different now, straighter. The ceremony finished a few minutes later. Outside, families gathered in small clusters for photos. My mother-in-law approached us eventually. For once, she didn't have anything ready to say. Her eyes moved briefly to the seams in the dress, then back to my daughter. No apology came. But something in her expression had changed, like a story she believed about the world had just been interrupted. My daughter smiled politely, the way people do when they're ready to keep moving forward. We took our photos in the sunlight. The dress wasn't perfect anymore, but somehow it looked stronger.